Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. And this is going to be a review of last night's edition of Dynamite, which was the June 3rd edition. Of course, Dynamite was from the Daily's Place in Jacksonville. And Dynamite last night, I thought it was a good show, in my opinion, last night. Really enjoyed Dynamite. We had Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega versus Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. This was for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And of course, last week, Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc ended up defeating SCU. The winner got a chance to face Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega, the next week, which was this week. And we also saw Brian Cage. He was in action. We also saw Colt Cabana versus Chris Jericho. And in the main event, we saw Cody versus Jungle Boy for the TNT Championship. So, like I said, Dynamite last night was a good show. It was a very enjoyable show. But let's get on with the Dynamite review. So, Dynamite opened up last night with Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega versus Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. Of course, Kip Sabian came out along with Penelope Ford. And this was a very good match. This was a good match between these teams. You had Jimmy Havoc starting off the match with Kenny Omega. Havoc was laying some forearms to Omega. Omega then ended up coming back, delivered a running back elbow on Havoc. And he tried to go for another. Penelope Ford got involved, ended up tripping him. And you had Omega end up continuing to get beat down by Jimmy Havoc. And you had a point in the match where Penelope Ford got involved once again. She leapt off the top rope and she tried to go for a Hurricanrana, but Hangman and Page ended up catching her. Page ended up catching her mid-swing in the Hurricanrana. And the referee, who was Rick Knox, he ended up turning around and he wasn't sure what was going on. And so Paige ends up saying, "Oh, she came in. She came in." So Rick Knox ended up throwing Penelope Ford out of ringside, ended up sending her to the back. And because of Rick Knox's back turn, Havoc ended up coming in with a wrench. And he ended up hitting the wrench to Page and Kenny Omega. So Havoc ended up going for the pin on Page. Page kicked out of 2. There was a point in the match where Havoc ended up also getting a hacksaw. He tried to hit Page with a hacksaw, but he ended up missing, ended up getting knocked to the floor. And at the end of the match, you had Page and Omega end up delivering the Buckshot Lariat V-Trigger on Havoc. And there you go. Hangman and Page and Kenny Omega end up winning the match, still retaining the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And, the outcome of the match, we all knew Hangman and Kenny Omega was going to win it. It was predictable. But overall, it was a very good match between these teams. It was very entertaining. And then after that, we saw Tully Blanchard. And this was posted on social media last week. From what I saw, Tully Blanchard, he was given a talk to Shawn Spears. And it was more of him just screaming at Shawn Spears, he was telling Shawn Spears that he needs to change something in his heart. So that was the whole clip that we saw, but he was just screaming at the top of his lungs, Tully Blanchard, to Shawn Spears. So then we saw footage of what happened earlier in the day from yesterday, just before Dynamite took place. So we saw Tully Blanchard, and he ended up getting in a car with Shawn Spears, and he was saying that he thinks he has the missing piece in a little box. So he hands it to Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears ended up opening it up, and what was inside was a black glove, and he ends up putting it on. So that was basically that. So, but at least we saw Shawn Spears, on TV, and he wasn't doing that Shawn Spears, network thing, or news network thing, where he was like reporting the news in that one segment that we saw a few weeks back. And then we saw Brian Cage in action. Brian Cage ended up taking on Shawn Dean. And of course, Brian Cage came out along with Taz. Really loved the pairing of Taz and Brian Cage, with Brian Cage. And the match started. This was a quick match. This was just, more build for Brian Cage, for him to, verse Jon Moxley. So, but Brian Cage got in the ring and immediately went to work on Shawn Dean. Was jamming him in the corner, delivering some suplexes to him, to belly-to-belly suplexes. And we saw one part where Cage went to the second rope, ended up delivering another suplex to Shawn Dean. And the end of the match, Brian Cage won, hit the drill claw on Shawn Dean, and throughout the match we saw Taz was just laughing it up. He was liking what he was seeing from Cage. There you go. Brian Cage ended up winning the match. More to build up, with Cage here, going into his match with Moxley at Fyter Fest. So, but post-match, Taz ended up getting on the mic, and, when Taz gets on the mic, we listen. We listen to what he has to say. If you're doing something and, you hear, you have Dynamite on as background noise, whenever Taz gets on the mic, you got to stop and listen to what he has to say and watch. So Taz ended up talking about, last week when he tried to tell Moxley about what Cage is going to do to him at Fyter Fest. And Taz ended up saying that he didn't appreciate Moxley laughing at his words. And he ended up saying that Moxley needs to get his head straight, or Cage is going to take it off at Fyter Fest. So then Moxley's music ended up hitting. Moxley ended up coming out, went through the stands. He ends up going into the ring, and Taz ended up telling Moxley, before he gets into the ring, to think and be careful about what he's going to say. So Moxley got on the mic. He ended up saying that the reason he was smiling and laughing was because the thought of, him taking on someone like Cage, in the ring, simply makes him happy. And Moxley ended up saying that when someone steps in the ring with him for his AEW World Championship, it will not be a game. So Moxley ended up saying that Cage might be something different in AEW. He ended up saying that Cage is swimming in the waters with a different breed of shark, and that he's not intimidated by, by Cage and Taz's words. So basically, that was what Moxley had to say. But more hype for Cage and Moxley going into Fyter Fest with the AEW World Championship being on the line. And actually got some news about Fyter Fest, which I will get to explaining. But overall, pretty good promo segment from Taz and Moxley. So then, when Dynamite came back from commercial, we saw Lance Archer. Lance Archer was in some lot along with Jake the Snake Roberts. And it was shown Archer was beating up some guy in a mask. Because Alex Marvez was there trying to get a word with Lance Archer. And Archer ended up telling Alex Marvez, that one loss is not a big deal. And that he's going to show everyone pain and torture like they've never seen before. And he delivered this promo. Lance Archer delivered what he had to say, this promo. Very good. And then Jake Roberts was there. He can see that Lance Archer was not in a great mood. Jake Roberts ended up apologizing to Marvez about, Archer. And he apologized to Marvez for being shoved by Archer because Archer ended up shoving Marvez. And then we went to Private Party. And, Mark Wen and Isaiah Cassidy, they were hanging out at the bar. Mark Wen ended up talking about his knee that was banged up. And then we saw Matt Hardy come in. Matt Hardy ends up coming in with his Team Extreme look, throwback, classic Matt Hardy there. So Matt Hardy ended up asking Mark Wen how he was feeling. And Mark Wen ended up saying that he won't be missing any time. And Matt Hardy ended up saying that Private Party is the future of the AEW tag team division. And he was offering up, if they ever need some advice, that he's happy to help them. So that would be cool, Matt Hardy, giving some advice to Private Party if they ever needed any advice from him. So Isaiah Cassidy then ended up asking Matt Hardy, oh, how about we have a team? So they were like, Matt Hardy, Private Party, Hardy Party. Hardy Party, as what Matt Hardy said. And, Private Party was liking the sound of it. I like the sound of Hardy Party. It rhymes. I know some people might find that cheesy, though, but I like how it rhymes, Hardy Party. If there was ever, if they ever do a 6-man tag, if they had Private Party and Matt Hardy there, that'd be a good, name to call them, Hardy Party. And then Matt Hardy ends up, walking out, and you see Sammy Guevara, and he ends up saying, "Hey, Sammy, how you feeling?" And Matt Hardy ended up telling Guevara, "Hey, we're cool, man. Respect." So Matt Hardy ended up walking off, and it showed Sammy Guevara looking a bit confused, like, what did he just say? Like he had like a what look on his face, Guevara, which was funny. But really cool backstage thing with Private Party and Matt Hardy. And like I said, I like the name of Hardy Party. It rhymes. And then we saw Colt Cabana versus Chris Jericho. Jericho, of course, came out with, of course, Jake Hager and Sammy Guevara. And right before the match started, when Jericho came out along with Hager and Guevara, Guevara comes out singing Judas. And it was so bad it was good, his singing, that it was hilarious. I was laughing hysterically at Guevara singing Judas. It was that funny. It was so bad it was hilarious. And he hangs out on the stage, and the match got underway, which was a good match. This was a very good match between Cabana and Jericho. Cabana ended up starting off the match, and he ended up sending Jericho out of the ring. He was beating Jericho up out at ringside. Hager comes and gets involved, and Cabana ended up going to the second rope, hit a moonsault off the second rope, took out Jericho and Hager, which was cool. Like how Cabana's moonsault looks. So it looked like that Cabana was bleeding, like there was a little blood on him coming out of his mouth from that moonsault. And he ended up sending Jericho back in the ring. Aubrey Edwards, who was refereeing the match, was checking on Jericho. Cabana ended up going to the top. Hager comes in, smashes Cabana's face into the turnbuckle, into the top turnbuckle. Cabana then goes out onto the floor. And Jericho ended up getting control. Jericho ended up continuing to beat up Cabana. Went for a cover. Cabana ended up kicking out at 2. And Cabana was sent into the corner by Jericho. And Cabana ended up sending Jericho straight into the turnbuckle because Jericho was looking to go for a bulldog. And you had, at the end of the match, Cabana was then sent into the corner. And Jericho comes in, hits the Judas effect on Cabana. So there you go. Jericho won the match. All in all, good match from Jericho and Colt Cabana. Post-match, Jericho ended up getting on the mic, and he ended up saying that what we saw, what happened to Cabana, the same is going to happen to Mike Tyson. From the end of Dynamite last week, where Tyson and Jericho ended up having that standoff. JR on commentary was like, Tyson and Jericho, it was kind of, like the same as Tyson and Austin. It was just basically that storyline with Tyson and Austin back in '98. It was just rehashed and put here. It's not Austin, it's Jericho now. So Jericho ended up saying that the same is going to happen to Mike Tyson, which he ended up saying that Mike Tyson, that piece of shit. So Jericho ended up saying that, calling Tyson a piece of shit. So Jericho ended up saying that this is the fight everyone wants to see. And he ended up saying that he's not waiting either. He's not waiting until the next pay-per-view. He's not waiting until the next Dynamite or Fyter Fest. Jericho ended up saying that he wants Tyson. He wanted Tyson right now. He said, I want the baddest man on the planet to come out here. So he kept on calling Tyson to come out. Of course, Mike Tyson wasn't there last night. So Jericho didn't end up getting Tyson. He ended up getting freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. So Orange Cassidy came out, ended up coming into the ring. Orange Cassidy then walked up to Jericho. He ended up putting Jericho's hands into his belt, into Jericho's belt, which was funny. And then Cassidy ended up putting his hands in his pockets, which was hilarious. So then Hager tried to go after Cassidy. Cassidy ended up ducking, ended up rolling out of the ring. And then we saw, Chucky T and Trent, of course, the best friends, bring Orange Cassidy over the rail. And then, of course, we had to have the other two members of the Inner Circle, since we had Hager and Guevara and Jericho out there. Santana and Ortiz end up coming to the ring. And, they were just talking trash to the best friends and Orange Cassidy. So, best friends and Orange Cassidy end up walking off. So, that was that. And then we saw, after that, we had a montage of Britt Baker. Britt Baker, she's in a wheelchair, she's injured. She was at a training facility, and Britt Baker was doing curls with a 2-pound weight. And she was pushed around by Tanea Brooks. And throughout night, Britt Baker was on top of a Rolls Royce, and we saw her there in the crowd, in the wheelchair on the Rolls Royce. But we had that Britt Baker, curling a 2-pound weight. And then we had Nyla Rose versus Big Swole. And this was a decent women's match. Wasn't a bad match by any means. As soon as the match ended up starting, Big Swole ended up getting Nyla Rose in a headlock. And she was continuing to work on Nyla Rose. And Nyla Rose ended up throwing Big Swole to the mat. And Nyla Rose ended up going out to the floor, and Big Swole ended up trying to go for a punt to Nyla Rose from the ring apron, and she got swept face first onto the ring apron by Nyla Rose. And you had Nyla Rose end up delivering a backbreaker to Big Swole. And the end of the match, you had Nyla Rose win the match. She delivered a spinebuster pop-up to Big Swole. So Nyla Rose end up win the match. But overall, decent match. Wasn't a bad women's match. I enjoyed it. Then post-match, Tony Schiavone used, again, a few words with Big Swole after the match. And Big Swole ended up telling Tony Schiavone that despite the loss, it feels good to be back after being away for 2 months. Yeah, she was away for 2 months. That's because of the CV, the COVID-19. So apparently on quarantine. So Britt Baker ended up running her mouth to Big Swole. And she ended up saying that Big Swole wants to mess with her. So she had Tanea Brooks at the front of the cart. So she ends up, Brooks ends up backing the cart up against the barricade. Big Swole has had enough of what Britt Baker had to say, so Big Swole ended up going underneath the ring, retrieving a chair, and Britt Baker was like, no, I'm injured. Back up. So Brooks ends up taking off with Britt Baker. The Rolls Royce ends up going away. So pretty much that was basically what happened. Now we had Tony Schiavone. He was talking with Darby Allin. And Darby Allin ends up saying that he's not cleared for action after the casino ladder match. Tony Schiavone ended up asking about the words that Taz said to him previously. And Darby Allin was like, life is one big joke. But Brian Cage, I'll get the last laugh. So, and that's how Darby Allin had to respond. But short interview with Darby Allin. But it looks like maybe Darby Allin, maybe at Fyter Fest, he's going to play a big role in the Brian Cage-Jon Moxley match, which I think Darby Allin is going to cost Brian Cage the win. So that's going to play into factor. So I guess at All Out, at the next AEW pay-per-view, All Out, it'll possibly be Brian Cage versus Darby Allin. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see. And I want to just talk about the news on Fyter Fest. Fyter Fest is going to take place on 2 weeks, on July 1st and July 8th. Night 1 is going to take place on July 1st. Night 2 is going to take place the following week on July 8th. It's going to be on Dynamite. It's going to be on TNT. So I like that. I like how, we're not getting a pay-per-view every single month with AEW. The last Dynamite thing that they did was Bash at the Beach, and that was a very good show. So, but yeah, Fyter Fest going to take place. It's a 2-week event. It's going to take place next month on July 1st and July 8th. So that's going to be pretty good. So, they only added 2 matches for it. Moxley and Cage for the AEW World Championship, and Omega and Page versus the Best Friends, Chucky T and Trent, where the AEW World Tag Team Championships are going to be on the line. So, yeah, can't wait for Fyter Fest. So then we had Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was interviewing FTR. FTR made their debut last week on Dynamite. Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. So they made their debut last week, which was a surprising, awesome debut. And Tony Schiavone ended up asking, what it means. What does FTR mean? So they end up saying that it's anything they want it to be. It could just take a life of its own, or its own lifestyle. So they end up saying right now, FTR stands for the Revolution. So Tony Schiavone ends up asking them who they want to face. And they run down, the tag team division. They end up saying that the tag champs aren't even an actual team, Page and Omega. And they say the Lucha Brothers don't understand the basic rule of tagging in. So Tony Schiavone ends up noting them that the Young Bucks weren't mentioned by them. Us fans have been wanting to see, them versus the Young Bucks. It's been talked about for, 2 years, I think. So that's a dream match waiting to happen. You know, I cannot wait for the day we see FTR versus the Young Bucks. That is going to be a great, awesome, can't take your eyes off the TV kind of match. So, but Dax ended up saying that he isn't happy about hearing how great they are, and that they are a tag team of the decade. Cash ended up saying that they don't want to have a match of the year with them. He just wants to punch them in the face and win quickly. And you know what? That might be a match of the year if it ever took place. So Tony Schiavone ended up saying this whole time he thought FTR meant fuck the Revival, which they bleeped it out. So there you go. That was a shot at WWE, with them when they were the Revival. And then we heard loud noises in this place that Tony Schiavone was interviewing FTR. And then we see the Butcher and the Blade. They end up coming down from the second floor because they were in the lobby of this place. I guess they were in a hotel. So FTR ends up saying, what happened last week wasn't personal. It was business. They end up saying if they want to settle things, they're going to do it in the ring. So they were saying, just relax. And then Cash ended up throwing a water bottle at both Butcher and the Blade and says they can get in the ring next week. So there you go. It was announced that FTR is going to be taking on the Butcher and the Blade next week. FTR's in-ring debut next week on Dynamite. So, FTR, Dax, and Cash, AEW is going to be treating them right. They're going to be treating them really better than how WWE did with them on the main roster. When they were in NXT, they were good. They were awesome. Came up to the main roster. We were happy to see them, and then they just messed them up, WWE. But AEW, they're going to be treating Dax and Cash the way how they wanted to be treated when they were in WWE. So we're going to be seeing that. I think they are going to be really happy in AEW. I see them as future AEW World Tag Team Champs. Whenever that time comes. Because they are a really good tag team. From what we saw when they were in NXT and sometimes on the main roster, but we all know how WWE fucked them over and messed them up. So yeah, they announced FTR versus the Butcher and the Blade for next week. Next week we're also going to be seeing Colt Cabana versus Sammy Guevara. Cody versus Mark Gwen for the AEW for the TNT Championship. Jake Hager, Santana, and Ortiz versus the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy is going to be taking place. And then it was also announced that Moxley is going to be wrestling on AEW Dark for the first time, which I don't watch Dark. So, there you go. That was all that was announced for next week. So then we went backstage, and Alex Marvez was talking with Colt Cabana. Cabana ended up saying that he fell short, but has looked impressive. And Brody Lee, the Exalted One, ended up showing up. And he tells him it's what Cabana does after a loss. And Brody Lee ends up telling Cabana he can help with that. So we had the spokesman. He was telling Cabana to think about it. And the spokesman ended up handing Cabana a bottle of water. And Cabana ended up saying that's nothing he wants to be a part of. So basically, they want Cabana to join the Dark Order, which, he ended up saying that he wants nothing to be a part of the Dark Order. Yeah, so that was that. And then we went to the main event. Cody versus Jungle Boy. TNT Championship on the line. And this was a good match. This was a very good match from Cody and Jungle Boy. Both of these guys gave it all they got in this match. And you tell that Cody is going to be making the TNT Championship the most important title in AEW. That's what Cody is going to be doing. He's going to be making this the most, title that everyone is going to have, their eyes on. Make it more important than, the World Championship or the, the World Tag Team Championships. But I like that Cody's bringing prestige into the TNT Championship. So, but the match started off. Cody ended up getting a side headlock onto Jungle Boy, and Jungle Boy ended up using speed in the match. Ended up taking some chops and a forearm. Cody ended up catching Jungle Boy in midair, delivered a power slam, and Cody then ended up tossing him on the outside, ended up tossing Jungle Boy on the outside. And Cody ended up looking to headbutt Jungle Boy, and then Jungle Boy ended up moving. And Cody goes head first into the wall on the outside. And it looked brutal how the way Cody took that hit to the wall, face first. And then Jungle Boy ended up getting back up, and he looked to MJF. And MJF was running his mouth to Jungle Boy. He was yelling at Jungle Boy saying, "You're a joke. I'm better than you." So it was just, MJF and Jungle Boy mouthing off to each other. It cut back to Cody, and Cody was just busted open. He's bleeding from the head because of the the wall. And Jungle Boy ended up sending Cody into the ring. Jungle Boy then delivered a flying forearm to Cody. Ended up delivering punches to Cody's head. Cody finally got up. Ended up hitting a kick to Jungle Boy. And you had Jungle Boy later on. He was swinging away onto Cody's cut that he received, of course, from the wall. Jungle Boy then headed to the top turnbuckle. Cody then delivered with a drop kick and a vertical suplex to Jungle Boy. There was a point where Jungle Boy, they went through the table. Cody went to the top. Jungle Boy ended up following, and both Cody and Jungle Boy went through the table on the outside. It was set up on the floor. Cody ended up getting up first, and Cody ended up pinning Jungle Boy, and Jungle Boy ended up kicking out. And then Cody comes back, delivered a crossroads to Jungle Boy, which Jungle Boy's legs hit the bottom rope. And then Cody went for the pin. There you go. Cody ended up winning the match, retained the TNT Championship. And it looked like, Cody ended up saying something to Jungle Boy, by the way, how Cody's head, was. So post-match, Brandy, Dustin, Arn, Luchasaurus, and Marco Stunt ended up coming out. Cody helped up Jungle Boy, and both of them ended up hugging, which I thought that was a good little moment. Jungle Boy then ended up raising up Cody's arm. Pyro was going off in the background on the stage. And that was how Dynamite ended. But it was a really cool little moment that happened between Jungle Boy and Cody. But overall, Dynamite, like I said, awesome show. Very good show last night as we build towards Fyter Fest. So anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And until the next video, which will be the SmackDown review tomorrow night. So until then, see you all tomorrow night with the SmackDown review.